Heavy breaths echoed through the dimly lit room, mingling with the rapid beating of two hearts, as if at any moment someone could walk down the hallway and all their secrets would be laid bare. The curtain fluttered softly in the night breeze, sending a chill over two bodies tangled together on the edge of the bed. Savannah let out a muffled moan, her lips biting gently into Ryder's shoulder to stifle any sound that might slip past the fragile wall, separating their room from the rest of the house. Ryder's hands wandered beneath the sheer fabric of her nightgown, greedily exploring every curve, every ragged breath of the woman he was never meant to love. "Stop, Ryder, we caw," Savannah whispered, but the glistening in her eyes and the trembling of her body betrayed the words she was trying to say. Their bodies melted into one another, swept up in a fear that was as sweet as it was forbidden. The door was still ajar. Every faint sound from the living room made both of them flinch, nerves stretched taut. Ryder held Savannah tighter, his lips buried in her hair, inhaling the scent that made him lose all control. In the darkness, all boundaries between reason and instinct blurred away, leaving only two people devouring each other with a hunger that had been repressed for years. Just one moment. If someone opened the door, if a phone rang, if every secret between them was suddenly exposed. What had pushed them so close to the edge of this sin? Ryder had never imagined he would crave his stepmother this much, and Savannah could no longer fight the reckless, youthful allure he brought into her life. That night had started just like any other, until Ryder came home, bringing with him a storm of emotion that no one could resist. The afternoon rain had just ended, leaving a dampness that crept into every corner of the house as Ryder dragged his heavy suitcase over the familiar threshold. The house looked the same as always, yet everything felt strangely different, especially when the person he was most eager to see now wasn't his father. Savannah stood in the kitchen, her silky brown hair cascading over her shoulders, a turquoise silk dress hugging her smooth white skin, and the full, radiant body of a woman with experience, yet still glowing with the freshness of youth. Her gaze lingered on Ryder longer than it should have, a mix of surprise, happiness, and a hint of shyness she couldn't quite conceal. "You're home?" Savannah's voice was as soft as a breeze. The way she called Ryder, younger brother, in Vietnamese always gave him a strange sensation. Partly comforted, partly teased, something that made his heart skip a beat. Ryder set down his suitcase, smiled, and replied, "I missed home and I missed you." Just one sentence, but Ryder's eyes were already full of unspoken meanings. He quietly studied Savannah, the gentle curve of her lips, her slim waist, the way she moved as she poured water or wiped the counter. Perhaps if someone walked in now, they would see nothing more than an ordinary stepmother-stepson bond. But only Ryder knew the true feelings hidden deep within him, raw, uncontrollable longing. Dinner was slow and quiet. Ryder's father was absorbed in talking about work, but Ryder barely heard a word. All his senses were tuned to Savannah, the faint perfume lingering on her neck, the glimpses of bare skin beneath her nightdress, her long legs peeking out under the table. After dinner, Ryder's father excused himself for work and retreated to his room, leaving the two of them alone in the still kitchen. Savannah tidied up the dishes while Ryder stood behind her, both of them caught in the strange, electric field that seemed to pulse between them. For a moment, Savannah turned and caught Ryder's burning gaze. "Is there something on my face?" she asked, smiling, her cheeks tinged with pink, as if she knew she had just slipped into the thoughts of this young man. "No, it's just everything here is exactly as I remember, Except for you, you seem to get more beautiful every day." Ryder answered, his voice hoarse, thick with desire. Savannah let out a quiet laugh, her eyes shimmering with mystery and a flicker of embarrassment. She avoided his gaze, one hand unconsciously pressed against her chest, as if to steady her racing heartbeat. "Go take a shower. The bathroom is still where it's always been. If you need anything, just let me know." Ryder nodded, but instead of heading straight to his room, he wandered through the house, deliberately taking his time just to feel Savannah's presence a little longer. When night finally draped its darkness over the house, with only a dim light spilling into the hallway from the living room, Ryder quietly made his way to his bedroom. But then he froze at an unexpected sight. Savannah's door was slightly ajar. Inside, she was changing dresses, her back to the door. The warm, yellow glow of the lamp cast soft shadows across her bare skin, the seductive curves of her body just visible beneath the thin fabric of her bra. Ryder stood transfixed, breath quickening, unable to tear his eyes away from the forbidden image. Suddenly, Savannah turned and caught Ryder's gaze. She didn't startle, didn't scold him. She calmly pulled on her robe, meeting his eyes directly. No accusation, only a gentle smile, and in that moment, Ryder knew he wasn't the only one longing to cross the line. He hurried back to his room, lying awake all night, his breath heavy, Savannah's image haunting every corner of his mind. Outside, the wind rustled through the windows, carrying with it a strange scent, something both forbidden and full of promise. That first night, nothing was said, but every boundary had already begun to blur. The entire next day, Ryder couldn't focus on anything. Images from the previous night kept swirling in his mind, making every move, every word from Savannah more haunting, intimate, yet out of reach. He had once thought he simply admired his stepmother for her gentleness and kindness, but from the moment he glimpsed her bare skin, everything inside him had been thrown into chaos. That morning, Savannah appeared in a soft, flowing dress, her hair tied up to reveal a slender neck and luminous white shoulders. She always maintained her graceful, gentle demeanor, but for Ryder, every tilt of her head, every faint smile became a silent wave threatening to sweep away all reason. Breakfast unfolded as usual, with Ryder's father talking the most, while Savannah quietly brewed tea and set it in front of each person. The faintest brush of her hand as she poured Ryder's tea, the fleeting glances their eyes exchanged through the curling steam. It all felt like a dangerous game only the two of them understood. After breakfast, Ryder excused himself to exercise, hoping to escape the stifling atmosphere of the house. He jogged around the garden, sweat beading on his forehead as he tried to chase away the thoughts looping through his mind. But every time he looked back and saw Savannah standing by the window, silently watching him, her gaze made his heart race out of control. That feeling was as sweet as it was painful, like he was trapped in a dream he could never wake from. By noon, Ryder's father had to go out for work, leaving just the two of them at home. The space felt eerily quiet, as if even the slightest sound could shatter the thin layer of safety they clung to. Savannah sat in the living room, reading and listening to soft music, sunlight streaming through the curtains, painting her skin with scattered patches of gold. Ryder sat on the sofa across from her, pretending to scroll through his phone, but stealing glances at Savannah through the dark screen. A gentle jazz tune played, and Savannah rested her leg on the chair, a natural motion that made her dress ride up to reveal smooth, flawless thighs. Ryder couldn't look away, his breathing quickening. Savannah seemed to know, or at least sensed it, casting a sly glance at him over her glasses, the curve of her lips teasing as if daring him. "Do you want something to drink?" "I can make it for you," Savannah asked, her voice floating like a breeze. "Could I have a cup of coffee?" Ryder replied, his tone husky. Savannah stood and walked past where Ryder sat. As she bent down to grab a cup from the low shelf, her hair brushed lightly against his arm, her familiar scent making his whole body flush with heat. He couldn't stop himself from thinking about the night before, the glimpse of bare skin, the mysterious look Savannah had given him. When she returned with the steaming cup, Ryder deliberately let his fingers linger on hers longer than necessary. Their eyes met, something hesitant and yet bold flickering between them. Savannah smiled, gently withdrawing her hand, but left behind a trace of warmth on Ryder's skin that nearly made him speak. "Can I ask you something?" Ryder suddenly broke the silence. Savannah hesitated, her eyes guarded. "What is it? Do you remember what happened last night?" Ryder's voice dropped, almost too soft for even himself to hear. Savannah fell silent, her deep eyes searching his. After a moment, she nodded. "I do. But you shouldn't dwell on it too much." Ryder clenched his fists, feeling the restlessness in every breath. "I can't think about anything else." Setting her cup down, Savannah left the sofa and stood by the window, light casting over her cheekbones, highlighting a beauty both gentle and irresistibly alluring. She stood still, as if fighting some battle inside. "Ryder, we have to be careful," Savannah whispered, her voice trembling. "Everything will get complicated if someone finds out." "I know," Ryder sighed, stepping closer, "but I can't pretend nothing happened. I can't forget how you looked, can't stop thinking about you, about everything I felt." Savannah turned, facing Ryder at a distance where only the sound of their heartbeats was audible. A long silence stretched between them, just quick breaths and the burning look in Ryder's eyes. "I'm only your stepmother, Ryder," Savannah managed, her voice thick with conflict, eyes brimming with tears and desire. "No, you're not my mother. You never have been." Ryder's voice was steady and firm. He reached out, gently touching Savannah's cheek, his fingers tracing down her neck, feeling the pulse beneath her soft skin. Savannah didn't pull away. She simply closed her eyes, took a long, trembling breath, as if struggling to suppress a tidal wave of emotion. The moment seemed to last forever, until a sudden noise at the front gate jolted them both, snapping the spell. Savannah quickly stepped back, regaining her calm posture, while Ryder stood frozen, his heart pounding. Ryder's father returned, restoring the suffocating normalcy. Savannah retreated to her room, leaving Ryder alone in the kitchen, awash with disappointment and anticipation. He knew things were going too far, and that he himself had passed the point of no return. That afternoon, Ryder tried to study, but his mind wouldn't settle. He replayed every look, every brush of hands from earlier, imagining Savannah in countless secret scenarios. He wondered if she thought of him in the same way, if she longed for more than these fleeting, stolen moments. Evening fell, and the family gathered for dinner. The air was so tense that even a joke could make everyone jump. Savannah wore a dress with a lower neckline than usual, the thin fabric hugging her body, baring her slender shoulders and faint strap marks. Ryder tried to maintain composure, but his eyes kept straying to every inviting curve of Savannah's form, each one carving itself deeper into his heart. Ryder's father chatted cheerfully about his plans for Ryder's future, while Savannah occasionally placed a gentle hand on Ryder's arm, seemingly casual, but always withdrawn quickly. Each touch sent fire through Ryder's veins, waves of heat rippling beneath his skin. After dinner, Savannah quietly cleared the table, and Ryder made a point of helping her with the dishes. Standing side by side at the sink, their elbows brushed, the scent of soap clinging to her hair, water trickling in the sink, a perfect backdrop for their dangerous game. Suddenly, Savannah dropped a plate, shards scattering across the floor. Ryder bent down at the same time as Savannah, their hands meeting on the cold tile. They froze, staring into each other's eyes for what felt like an eternity. Ryder let go first, but couldn't tear himself from that gaze, full of fear, longing, and something close to surrender. Savannah crouched to pick up the pieces, the front of her dress falling away to reveal the softness of her chest. Ryder swallowed hard, his entire body tense. He stood, helping Savannah to her feet, their bodies so close their breaths mingled. Without thinking, Savannah placed a hand on Ryder's shoulder, looking up at him, eyes full of turmoil. "Thank you," she whispered, her breath warm against his neck. Ryder couldn't help himself. He kept his hand on her elbow, savoring the feel of her skin beneath his fingers. Just 1 second longer, and if not for Ryder's father calling from the living room, every boundary might have shattered then and there. Savannah quickly left, leaving Ryder alone with a storm of emotions. That night, he couldn't sleep. Visions of Savannah, her shadow behind a thin nightgown, her secretive glances, every accidental touch, spun through his mind like a fever. He lay awake, listening for the faintest sound in the hallway, wishing for just one more chance to be close to her, to touch her, even for a fleeting instant. Elsewhere, Savannah was also sleepless. Ryder's hands, his burning eyes, his hot breath against her neck, these haunted her, her heart racing in her chest. She knew how dangerous this relationship was, knew that one more step would mean no return. But the more afraid she felt, the more she was drawn into the vortex of forbidden desire. The next morning, the house felt even more tense. Ryder made excuses to go out, and Savannah tried to keep her distance, but nothing could hide the way their eyes met, by the stairs, in the hall, in the little kitchen. That afternoon, rain poured down without warning, darkening the whole house. Ryder returned just as the power went out, shadows swallowing every corner. His father was away again, leaving only Ryder and Savannah at home. Savannah lit candles in the kitchen, the flickering light catching her features, her eyes deeper and more mysterious than ever. Ryder stood still, watching Savannah in the warm glow, feeling his heart beat harder with every second. She handed him a candle, and their fingers brushed beneath the flame. This time, Ryder didn't let go. They stood frozen, their shadows merging on the wall, only breath and heartbeat breaking the silence of the empty kitchen. "Savannah," Ryder whispered, his voice shaking with emotion. Savannah looked up, her eyes glistening, ready to catch fire. No words were needed, every breath, every squeezed hand, every pleading glance overflowed with feeling. In that moment, every boundary seemed to vanish, leaving only two people consumed by an uncontrollable longing, alone in a house bathed in darkness, warmth, and the scent of forbidden desire. The summer rain lasted all night, leaving a damp scent in the air and a hint of chill drifting through the house. After that endless touch beneath the candlelight the night before, neither Ryder nor Savannah spoke of it again, but in their eyes, in every little gesture, everything had changed. Savannah now seemed like a new woman, radiating a mysterious allure Ryder couldn't escape. Even when they were just together in the kitchen, doing the simplest things, there was always a current between them, invisible but electrifying, running the length of their bodies. Ryder started noticing Savannah's little games growing more frequent. In the mornings, she came down with her hair still wet from the shower, draped in a silk robe that clung to her curves, the neckline just open enough to reveal the swell of her breasts and the pale line of her collarbone. The sweet scent of her body wash mingled with the steam of fresh coffee, and every time Ryder looked at her, waves of desire crashed over him, something wild and impossible to resist. When Savannah sat reading the newspaper, her bare legs crossed on the chair, toes gently gliding over the cool tile, Ryder felt like a voyeur in his own home. Every glance, every breath was noticed and answered by Savannah's subtle, knowing smile, deep, challenging, and impossible to ignore. One afternoon, Ryder was upstairs when he heard the soft sound of water running from the bathroom below. He started toward his own room, but his feet stopped at a door left slightly ajar. Through the narrow opening, he could see Savannah wrapped in a towel, hair dripping onto her bare shoulders. She stood in front of the mirror, sometimes running a hand over her damp skin, her eyes lost in memories from a world where Ryder didn't exist. He knew he shouldn't watch, shouldn't stand there, but he couldn't move. His hand gripped the doorframe, his breath grew heavy, and his mind spun in a tangle of guilt and longing. Suddenly, Savannah turned and looked straight into Ryder's eyes through the crack in the door. She didn't scold him or show anger. She simply smiled faintly, adjusted her towel higher, then closed the door with a slow, deliberate motion, as if she wanted to leave a trace behind, something to keep Ryder restless all that afternoon. Ryder rushed to his room, flopped onto his bed, his heart thundering in his chest, Savannah's image burning into every nerve. He lay awake for hours that night, feverish from nothing but the memory of wet skin and a provocative look. In the nights that followed, Ryder always seemed to hear Savannah's gentle footsteps in the hallway, the quiet click of her door, the faint glow of her bedside lamp spilling into the corridor. Sometimes, as he went for water, the scent of her perfume, the slight sound of her shifting behind her door would stop him in his tracks. He'd find himself clutching the doorknob, trembling with desire he could no longer contain. Savannah, for her part, only played the cat-and-mouse game more boldly. She left a sheer nightgown draped carelessly over Ryder's banister, or accidentally borrowed his shirt to wear around the house, appearing with nearly every button undone, soft skin and long legs exposed, her eyes half dreamy, half inviting. Ryder was surrounded by Savannah's presence on his pillow, on the couch, in the running water, and in every half-lucid dream. One night, Ryder's father went away for 2 days, leaving only Ryder and Savannah at home. The air felt thick, heavy enough to slice. Ryder sat on the sofa, eyes on the TV, but his mind deaf to every sound. Savannah appeared behind him, glass of red wine in hand, hair loose over her shoulder, a black silk dress hugging every perfect curve. She sat beside Ryder, so close he could feel her warmth against his skin. Savannah handed him the wine, her eyes sparkling in the golden light. "Try it. I just bought this bottle," she murmured, her voice deep and smoky with drink, making Ryder shiver. As he took the glass, their fingers brushed, a current running straight up his arm to his chest. They sat in silence, the rain ticking softly on the roof outside. Ryder could feel Savannah's breath, every little motion as she tucked her hair or laughed quietly at old stories they shared. Without realizing it, the space between them vanished. Savannah leaned in closer, the scent of wine and perfume mingling, their eyes tangled together in silence. Ryder's hand rested on Savannah's thigh, feeling her warmth through the thin fabric. She inched nearer, didn't pull away, only looked at him with an expression that was both accepting and daring, as if inviting him to break every rule. Savannah stood first, heading toward her bedroom. Ryder sprang up, his heart pounding. He followed, steps light as air, knowing even the smallest sound might shatter their forbidden world. At Savannah's door, Ryder hesitated, his hand trembling as he touched the half-open door. Inside, Savannah sat at the edge of the bed, her back to the door, long brown hair cascading over her bare back. The soft lamplight traced her slender waist and delicate shoulders. Ryder stepped closer, hearing nothing but their own breathing. He placed a hand gently on her shoulder, and their breaths mingled in the quiet. Savannah turned, her eyes meeting Ryder's, lips parting as if in anticipation. Ryder leaned down, the scent of her skin mixing with the heat of her breath, their lips so close that one small move would dissolve every shred of restraint. But Savannah surprised him, raising a finger to his lips to stop him. She looked deep into his eyes, smiling mysteriously, and whispered, "Not yet. If you truly want me, show me you deserve it." Ryder pulled back, confused and burning with a mix of desire and disappointment. Savannah smiled, pulled a blanket over her bare shoulders, and lay down facing the door. The room filled with shadows and heavy breaths, two people tangled in longing, trapped in a dangerous game. That night, Ryder tossed and turned, burning from what had just happened, from Savannah's challenging look, from the way his chest felt ready to burst. He knew now that this was no longer innocent curiosity, but a deep addiction. Anyone who crossed this line could never be the same. The next day, Savannah kept testing Ryder. She wore a dress with a plunging neckline to the market, coming home with flushed cheeks, tousled hair, and lips shiny as if someone had just kissed her. Ryder couldn't hide his jealousy. He followed her into the kitchen, pressed close, his breath hot against her neck. "Who did you go with?" Ryder asked, voice low. Savannah didn't answer right away, just smiled softly, turned around, her hands braced on the counter, facing Ryder. "Just an old friend. Why does it bother you?" Ryder gripped her shoulder, eyes glued to her pale neck, hand slipping down to her waist, pulling her closer. Savannah met Ryder's gaze, her lips trembling, her breath quickening, but she never looked away from his intense stare. "I don't like it," Ryder whispered, his breath hot against her lips. "I want you to look only at me." Savannah put her hand on Ryder's chest, feeling his heart race. She didn't push him away, only kept her hand there, as if to confirm something. They stood together in the kitchen, evening light falling across their faces, and once again, the line between them grew thinner. Dinner that night passed in tense silence. Every time their eyes met across the table, memories of touches, glances, games, and breaths swirled in the thick air of desire. Ryder's father retired early, leaving the two alone in the quiet, just the sound of their hearts and the ticking clock. Later, Ryder stepped onto the balcony, cool air brushing his skin. Down below, Savannah returned from a walk, moonlight washing over her with an ethereal glow. Their eyes met, pulled together by an invisible thread. Savannah looked up, smiled, and slipped inside, her soft silhouette disappearing behind the door. Ryder knew it would be another long night, full of thoughts and longings he couldn't name. Savannah, too, lying in bed, traced her wrist with her fingers, remembering every breath, every accidental touch, every burning glance from Ryder. In her mind, every boundary of morality had become so fragile that a single touch more might shatter it completely. The oppressive heat of summer seemed to press every ounce of exhaustion and desire into each inch of bare skin, making the air in the house heavy, a mixture of sweetness and guilt. Many restless nights had passed since their last accidental touch, and Ryder felt like he was on the verge of losing his mind. Each brush of their hands, every silent glance, and all of Savannah's teasing games haunted him, fueling a fire he couldn't extinguish. The two of them were like opposite poles of a magnet, held apart by force, needing only a single spark to explode. That afternoon, the sky turned stormy, thunder rumbling as heavy rain pounded the windows and left the house bathed in dusky shadow. Ryder's father had just left for a business trip, and the whole house was now swallowed by the rush of rain and dim, uncertain light. Savannah stood at the living room window, wearing a thin white silk dress that clung to every curve. The warm glow of a lamp cast golden light on her bare back, making the room feel wrapped in a secret, long-restrained heat. Ryder entered, heart hammering as he saw Savannah quietly watching the rain. He couldn't hold back, couldn't deny it anymore. This time, all his restraint was burned away by the flames of desire. He stepped close, his hands sliding gently onto Savannah's bare shoulders from behind, his hot breath spilling over the cool skin of her neck. She startled a little but didn't turn around. She just stood still, breathing faster as Ryder's palm traced up her neck, fingers brushing lightly along her nape. "Ryder," Savannah whispered, her voice trembling, part plea, part surrender. He turned her toward him, searching her eyes, where every fear, every forbidden urge, every longing erupted in silence. They didn't speak. Ryder's lips found Savannah's in a kiss that was desperate, trembling, but unstoppable. This was no longer a stolen kiss or a hurried caress. This was a hunger finally set free after too long caged. Their mouths melted together, tongues meeting with a soft, aching heat, breath coming faster, each gasp a symphony for their beautiful crime. Savannah melted against Ryder's chest, her small hands clutching at his collar, her fingers trailing down his strong back. Ryder swept her up, laying her gently on the living room sofa, golden lamplight trembling across every line of their bodies. Savannah's skin was soft and flawless, warmth flowing from Ryder's chest and arms into her, stoking a storm of yearning neither of them could resist. He pressed gentle kisses along her neck, down to her shoulder, each one mixing sweetly with her sharp, shuddering breaths and faint moans. Savannah wrapped her arms around his head, fingers tangling in his hair, drawing him closer, bare legs winding around his waist as if to never let him go. Her thin silk dress slid easily off her shoulders, revealing the milky white skin and perfect curves Ryder had only dared to imagine in sweat-soaked dreams. Savannah gasped, eyes fluttering shut, lips wet and parted, biting at Ryder's shoulder whenever he kissed her lower. Whenever his tongue traced fire over her skin, making her tremble with pleasure and guilt in equal measure. Ryder's hands moved slowly, caressing her back, sliding around her waist to hold her tight, feeling every breath and quiver of her body as she ached for more. In the hush broken only by the sound of rain, every tiny noise was magnified. A single moan from Savannah was enough to make Ryder shiver with joy. He bent to whisper in her ear, "I want you right now, right here." Savannah didn't answer, just pulled Ryder closer, their bodies joining in the primal dance both had craved for so long. Buttons popped in feverish urgency, fabric slid away, hands roamed and explored, gentle, eager, as if they both feared waking up and finding it all just a dream. Savannah whispered Ryder's name between ragged breaths, her hands searching over every muscle, every tiny scar on his chest. She shivered each time Ryder murmured in her ear, as his lips brushed her breasts, as his hands squeezed her waist and pulled her tighter. Their bodies wound together, breaths mingling, hearts racing, their moans muffled against each other to keep the world outside from knowing. Every movement, every touch, every whispered word carried them deeper into dizzying ecstasy, always edged with fear, guilt, and the knowledge of what they were risking. At one point, Savannah breathed, "What will happen if someone finds out about us?" But as Ryder kissed her forehead and murmured, "Don't think about anything else, it's just you and me, just tonight," all her worries faded away, leaving only the burning, reckless joy of their bodies and hearts. When the moment broke and they became one, Savannah let out a strangled moan, her hands clawing at Ryder's back, wanting to hold him there forever. Ryder clung to her, whispering her name into the night, their breath tangled and hot, both of them dizzy and lost in the heat. Afterwards, they lay entwined on the sofa, still gasping, hearts thundering out of rhythm. Savannah stroked Ryder's hair, silent tears slipping down her cheek. She didn't know if they were from happiness, fear, or a guilt that would never fade. Ryder held her tightly, fingers drawing small circles on her back, saying nothing, just feeling the warmth of Savannah's naked body pressed close. They knew that after tonight, nothing would ever be the same. No more secret hand touches, no more glances from afar. Now it was an addiction, a need set loose, impossible to control. The air in the room grew even heavier, thick with the sweet taste of forbidden love finally unleashed. Far off, thunder rumbled, and a cold breeze slipped in through the crack under the door. Savannah pulled a blanket over herself, curling into Ryder's arms. "I'm scared," she whispered, voice shaking, scared that from now on, we won't be able to stop. Ryder pulled her close, kissed her soft hair, murmuring, "Then let's not stop. No matter what happens, I don't ever want to go back to the way things were." Savannah didn't answer, just pressed her face into Ryder's chest, her tears soaking his skin. Outside, the rain kept falling, hiding every secret of that fateful night. In the darkness, in the hush and the mingled breaths, their bodies curled together, knowing that from this moment on, their forbidden world was truly open, full of sweetness, fear, and consequences they couldn't yet imagine. Ever since that fateful night, everything between Ryder and Savannah had changed forever. The initial guilt was quickly consumed by a sweet, addictive obsession that invaded every cell of their bodies. There were no more furtive glances, no more hidden games. Now, just a slight touch, a subtle signal from Savannah, and Ryder was willing to risk everything just to feel her again. The long nights suddenly felt too short, while days stretched into eternity as he ached for the next stolen moment together. Savannah felt it too. No longer the cool, restrained woman she'd once been, now every time she looked at Ryder, her eyes burned with a fire she could no longer hide. At first, she tried to keep her distance when others were around, but whenever Ryder's father was away or whenever they were alone, all restraint shattered in a rush of mutual hunger. Most mornings, Ryder woke earlier than usual, quietly slipping into the kitchen under the guise of making coffee, just to wait for Savannah. Sometimes, before the sun had fully risen, she would appear wearing Ryder's shirt, buttons undone, the collar slipping open to reveal her bare shoulders and chest. She'd reach for a cup on the high shelf, casting him a teasing look. Ryder would step close, slide his arms around her waist, lips brushing her neck as he whispered good morning, and she'd gasp, a soft sound only for him. Breakfast was just an excuse. Whenever Ryder's father was away and the house was silent, Ryder would press Savannah against the wall, his hands hungrily exploring her soft skin. Their moans, their panting breaths, the sound of flesh on flesh mixed with the pale gold of morning light, it all became a secret, sweet ritual neither could resist. It wasn't only at home. Their secret encounters happened wherever they could. The misty bathroom, shadowed stairwells, even in the car parked beneath a tree in the backyard. Where Savannah would straddle Ryder, their bodies entwined, fogging up the windows, both trembling with a mix of fear and exhilaration. Sometimes, Ryder was so obsessed that just hearing Savannah's footsteps in the hallway would make his heart pound, breath catch, hands shake, aching for another touch of her skin. Some nights, Ryder crept into Savannah's room after everyone else had fallen asleep. He'd lie beside her, arms around her naked body, kissing every inch that still tasted of the night before. Savannah would accept him in silence, their mouths meeting, breaths blending, moans muffled into the pillows. Sometimes, just a glance was enough to shatter all boundaries. Ryder's hand gripping Savannah's wrists above her head, his lips trailing along her collarbone, each move claiming her, branding her into his memory and his flesh. But those stolen moments only sharpened the anxiety and fear that grew inside them both. Savannah became jumpy at the slightest noise, once even shoving Ryder away in panic when a car pulled up outside, her face etched with worry and her eyes distant, even as she reassured him. Ryder sensed it too. The deeper they fell, the clearer the danger became, lurking ever closer. Tension mounted when a neighbor, Mrs. Gloria, a nosy middle-aged woman, happened to see Savannah's bedroom light burning late at night and also caught a glimpse of Ryder quietly leaving her room near dawn. Rumors began to swirl. The grown son back home, far too close to his stepmother. The whispered speculation was like a blade, slicing through the stifling air of their house. Savannah grew more withdrawn, but behind closed doors, every glance between her and Ryder flared into wildfire. She became even bolder, once pulling Ryder into the storage room, locking the door, pressing him against a dusty shelf, her arms around his neck, kissing him in the half-light. Their breaths and moans muffled against clothing, their frantic, desperate movements, threat and risk only made their desire burn hotter. The breaking point came one afternoon as they were making love in the bathroom, the rush of water masking every sound. Ryder lifted Savannah, pressing her against the wall, their naked bodies tangled, lips seeking lips, breaths burning with lust. Suddenly, Savannah's phone rang. It was Ryder's father, calling to say he'd be home earlier than expected. They scrambled to get dressed, hair wet and messy, hearts pounding as they heard the gate outside swing open. Dinner that night was silent. Savannah barely glanced at Ryder before looking away, biting her lip to hold back her feelings, while Ryder sat still, filled with worry and regret. The air at the table was taut as a wire, every gesture cautious, as if the smallest slip might expose all their secrets. In the nights that followed, Ryder and Savannah grew so obsessed with each other that they could sense one another's presence by a glance, a tiny movement. Their secret trysts grew even more hurried, even hotter, but always shadowed by peril. Savannah became jumpy, anxious whenever she thought someone was watching, or saw a strange car parked nearby, or heard the neighbors whispering at the gate in the morning. She worried for Ryder's future, for her own. But the more afraid they became, the less able they were to stop. One night, Ryder held Savannah close in the darkness and whispered, "Maybe we should just run away. If we stay here, it's only a matter of time before we're found out." Savannah was silent for a long time, then only hugged him tighter, tears soaking his shirt. "Would you give up everything for me, Ryder?" He nodded, but inside, fear still twisted, refusing to let him answer with total certainty. In the days that followed, Ryder tried to act normal, focusing on school, going out with friends. But whenever he came home, Savannah's eyes, her scent, the sound of her footsteps at night, they all pulled him off balance. He knew it couldn't last. One day, every secret would be dragged into the light, and when that happened, what would they have left? Savannah lived in a half-dream, half-nightmare. She played her part as the gentle stepmother, cooking, keeping house, caring for the family. But behind closed doors, that facade vanished, replaced by long, feverish, dangerous nights. Sometimes, she'd catch Mrs. Gloria watching her through the fence, her mocking smile a chilling reminder that no secret lasts forever. The pressure weighed on both of them. Ryder's sleep was haunted by nightmares, being caught, thrown out, hated by everyone. Savannah drowned in terror of losing it all, her family, her young lover, the hard-won piece of her new life. Yet each morning, as sunlight crept through the curtains, as their bodies found each other again, all that fear faded, replaced by a desperate need to live, if only for one more stolen moment. One afternoon, Ryder watched Savannah standing by the window, her eyes clouded with sorrow and a determination he'd never seen before. He knew the time had come, to keep sneaking around, accepting the risk, or break down every barrier and face the truth. The last days of summer passed in a haze of heavy anxiety, thick as fog. Savannah rarely left the house, and every time the doorbell rang or voices drifted in from beyond the fence, she shuddered, her eyes glued to the window as if bracing for disaster. Ryder was no better. The pressure of neighbors prying stares and the shift in his father's demeanor, sometimes distant and pensive, sometimes overly inquisitive, made life inside the house feel as if a storm was always looming. Rumors about them smoldered and spread. One evening, Ryder walked into the kitchen and found his father sitting alone in the dark, his gaze piercing, cutting through every mask. "I need to ask you something," he said, his voice hoarse. "You and Savannah, is there something you haven't told me?" Ryder froze, sweat prickling on his brow. He wanted to lie, but that stare seemed to grip his soul. "No, Dad, there's nothing," Ryder whispered, but deep down he knew the end had come. That night, Ryder went to Savannah's room. She was sitting quietly by the window, moonlight glinting off her bare shoulder as she shivered. Ryder wrapped his arms around her from behind, and they sat in silence for a long time, words no longer enough to soothe the growing fear in their hearts. "I think Dad knows," Ryder murmured, his lips brushing the trembling skin at the nape of Savannah's neck. Savannah turned to him, eyes brimming with tears, exhausted, desperate, yet still burning with the fire he remembered from the very first night. "What are we going to do, Ryder? If we keep going like this, everything will collapse someday. Let's leave, go somewhere new, somewhere no one knows us." "As long as I have you, I don't need anything else," Ryder replied, his voice full of resolve but quivering with fear. Savannah smiled through her tears, her hand gently caressing Ryder's face. "You're still so young. You have your whole life ahead of you, your family, your reputation, your future, and me. I'm just a woman who's already lived through too much. I should have known where to stop." Ryder said nothing, only held her tighter, kissing her tear-soaked lips as if trying to hold on to every shard of pain, desire, and memory they had created together. That night, they made love as if it was their last time, every feeling, every craving erupting in a feverish storm. Their moans broke through ragged breaths, tears mixed with sweat, their bodies tangled wildly in the darkness, as if nothing else existed but each other. After that, the air in the house became even heavier. Ryder tried to mask his feelings, act normal, but even a glance or an accidental touch from Savannah was enough to make them both tremble. Savannah grew more withdrawn, her eyes shadowed with the sorrow of someone already saying goodbye. Yet every night she let Ryder slip into her room, sharing those last precious moments in their secret world. Then the day finally came. Ryder's father called them both to the living room, saying nothing at first. He placed a photo on the table, a picture of Ryder and Savannah embracing in the garden, caught through a gap in the fence. Ryder went pale, Savannah frozen in shock. His father's voice cracked. "I trusted you both, but maybe I was wrong. From now on, each of you must remember your place. If not, everything ends here." Time seemed to freeze. Ryder clutched Savannah's hand, feeling everything slipping away. After that conversation, Savannah quietly packed her things. She left Ryder a short letter, only a few lines. "You were the most beautiful thing and also the most dangerous that ever happened to me. I'll carry every memory of you of this summer with me forever. Don't look for me, because you deserve a different life, one I can never give you." Ryder sat for hours, numb, the letter soaked in tears, a pain in his chest that had no words. He ran out into the rain, searching every street and familiar place Savannah might have gone, but found nothing except the fragments of shattered dreams hiding in every dark corner. That summer ended with a rainstorm that lasted for days. In the old house, only the ticking clock remained, echoes of breath, the scent of her skin, the wildness of their collisions, and the goodbye that was never spoken aloud. Ryder grew up from that forbidden summer, carrying a scar that would never fully heal. Every time he remembered, he could feel again the scent of Savannah's skin, her choked moans in the night, her smile, her gaze, the taste of tears on his lips. And perhaps, somewhere far away, Savannah too remembered Ryder, remembered the burning, secret summer that marked her heart. A bruise deep and everlasting, beautiful and painful, impossible to erase.